everyone. So welcome to the new episode of Career Ka Sawal Hai. And today we will discuss about that one big mistake many of us do while applying for jobs. And that is we ignore the job description and we do not submit a CV that is matching the job requirement. So this is one of the biggest reasons why CVs are not shortlisted. The reason simple. Uh, a lot of CVs, initial screening is being done by some software or tools. I think we are many of us are already familiar with. So if it is not a good match between the job requirement and the CV, your CV will be rejected. Sometimes the screening is being done by an HR or maybe by someone who is not too experienced in that particular, maybe a young early career professional, right? So they may not understand the expectations of the roles in details, and while going through the CV, if they are not able to correlate with the JD, they will not shortlist you, right? On the other hand, if your CV is matching the JD, obviously it becomes easier to review and make some decisions, right? Now, when I say CV matching the JD, it doesn't mean just some keywords here and there, right? Actually, it should be close to around 80% of experience that should be relevant to the JD. That will increase your chances of the CVs getting shortlisted for the role. Now, what I believe that it's not that difficult to customize your CV, right? So why don't we typically do it? If I have, whatever I have discussed with others, I have talked to various people. There are three prime reasons. First is very simple, laziness. We don't want to spend time on our CV, right? Second is multiple roles. What should have been an advantage, sometimes it becomes a disadvantage, right? If someone has taken, say, different types of roles in their career, they want to retain in their CV same importance for each and every role, even though if it is not relevant to the job. Third is lack of clarity of future. You know, what you are today, maybe in a certain role, you want to become someone else in the future, right? And that is where you are focusing. That becomes a difficult or maybe a conflicting between the job requirement and your expectation. Okay, so what is the solution? First of all, laziness, right? That reminds me of my friend, and he was actively looking for a job change. And obviously, so he was applying in multiple companies. I tried to give him some gyan, some knowledge, or some in what to say, like instructions or some advice to him, like customize, focus, and all that. So he is Marathi, and his reply in typical Marathi accent was that, "अरे बाबा, मैं रोज का 10 कंपनी में अप्लाई करता है रे, तो 10 CV तो नहीं बनाएगा ना?" That is true, it is not wrong in that, and you cannot have a separate CV for each of the company you are applying for, right? But but out of those 10 companies, there will be, say, maybe 2 companies that may be your target company, right? You are targeting for certain company. At least for such companies, spend some more time, on while preparing your CV and apply accordingly, right? Don't ignore. Now, second point, if you have taken multiple roles, right? Like I mentioned, it can be an advantage, it can be a disadvantage. So before applying, ask yourself, what is your core area? Is it same as the job role? If yes, please go ahead and apply with your CV. If not, are you really a fit to apply for this one? Right? First, ask yourself. In case you find that maybe it may not be 100% match, but if you find that there are matching requirements to any of your previous role, what you have taken before, or maybe some other role which you have done, just rearrange the points in your CV to focus on the job opening relevant points, right? That will obviously increase the chance of your CV getting shortlisted. Third and the last, lack of clarity. Now, many times, what happens? Say, suppose you are a project engineer, but you want to become an engineering man. And the reason which you give is which you provide is that you understand engineering very well. But many times, if you have not actually taken that role, it becomes difficult to justify during the interview process. That includes the CV screening as well, and you keep on applying for roles which are not matching your experience, and obviously it gets rejected. In my experience, and I have tried to explain this to many people before, changing a company along with change in the job role also, that is very difficult. I have maybe seen a very few instances where this has happened, but most of the time it's very difficult. And my honest, sincere suggestion to all is avoid such kind of uh, efforts, such kind of efforts in such job change. Okay. Now, what I will do is that I have some sample job description. It's a very simple job description, so I'll just pull it over. We will go through it. That what is the job description and what are some common mistakes which we do while applying for any sector. So this job says, the title, it says, project control specialist, and I have just highlighted some of the key expectations here. Obviously, they are expecting this profile to be, they need to be having good understanding of WBS and the project coding structures. This person, if he or she is applying, they should be aware of project budget and managing that, cost control, controlling, and scheduling procedures. They should be very much aware about it. And there is focus on the change management system for the engineering and construction. Okay. Some more expectations. Uh, Good communication skills definitely has been highlighted here. Apart from other expectations like the technical knowledge and others about codes and standards, local codes and standards. Also, this person should be well aware about automation, right? They should be able to automate for the overall cost schedule and having a good leadership tools in the previous. Okay, this is the key highlight of the this particular job. Now, if you are applying for this particular job and if your title has, says anything other than project controls engineer, project controls lead, project controls manager, rewrite your CV. Do not say general things like, in your title, project management professional. I don't think that makes any sense, right? Even your high level summary also, right? It should be very much relevant, related to that particular job, not just something, project execution, experience in project execution, planning, project controls, and see, project controls is coming almost, at the end of this summary, right? That is okay. Your skill set. It should not be it should not be generic like this. Almost nothing is mentioned about the project controls requirement which was mentioned in the page. Avoid this, right? When you are writing your detailed roles and activities, right? First of all, I never recommend having such detailed ones in your CV. Again, if you go through these, probably it may not be fully readable, but it's very similar to what we discussed earlier. Almost none of these are focusing on the core job requirements, right? So this is just taking away space in your CV, not adding any. Okay. All right. So that's what we wanted to discuss today. I hope we have added some value again to your learning, to your career development. If you have any feedback, if you have any comments, just let us know. And yes, we will see you again in the next episode. All right. Thank you.